Hey y'all, Wagwan, it's me, V. Welcome back to my channel, Ashes to Ashe, where I discuss Black liberation through the lens of radical spirituality, decolonization, challenging the status quo, and how Black folks can use these tools and others to liberate ourselves, as well as anything else that I want to talk about. First and foremost, I want to say thank you for being here. Thank you to all, and welcome to all the new subscribers. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for the comments, engaging with me in the comments. It's been really, really great. It's been absolutely wonderful, and I'm really excited to grow not only with this channel, but with y'all as a community. So thank you. So today I want to discuss the idea of Blackness as counterculture. What that means, what that looks like, real examples, and what that means specifically for Black folks, not only culturally, but as we work towards our liberation in a white supremacist world. Okay, so let's set the stage. We know that we live in an anti-Black, white supremacist world. We know that there is a racial hierarchy. We know that white folks are at the top, Black folks are at the bottom. And we know that because whiteness, as a political identity specifically, is at the top of this racial hierarchy, we know that whiteness is thus, and white people are thus considered the default. They're considered normal, the reference point to which all other races are upheld to the standard, and specifically what it means to be civilized, what it means to be human, and what it means to be good, right? Now, when we think about Black folks, right, and our placement of at the bottom of the racial hierarchy, and how that plays out, right, in the cultural context, we have to acknowledge that Black folks are thus the inverse of what it means, or the role of whiteness on this racial hierarchy, right? So Black folks and the idea of Black folks, because we kind of exist as an idea more than people, that's kind of why white folks can commit certain crimes, and it's personalized to them that they did the crime, whereas we have all had that moment when we hear about something happening, we're all whispering, don't let them be Black, don't let them be Black, don't let them be Black. And it's because we know that we are not allowed to be personalized, that dehumanization also takes away the humanity of being an individual, and the crime of one is the crime of all, which is, the idea of Blackness and Black folks. In this idea of Black folks, who we are, right, what we represent, it's uncivilized, savage, the dehumanization, the opposite of humanness. Like I mentioned in multiple videos, Frank B. Wilderson's afro-pessimism describes Black folks as non-human sentient beings, but we are the polar opposite of the idea and ideal of whiteness, right? Now, because of this, Blackness inherently is, and thus Black people, Black fashion, Black pride, Black liberation, Black art, Black music, Black culture is seen as subversive, right, to the larger status quo, if you will, because it is the direct polar opposite, right, the antithesis of what whiteness represents. And while we have undeniably exhibited resilience and excellency, specifically, when compared to some of our counterparts, right? The standard is still set to some extent, right, by whiteness. In this, the very nature of our presence, specifically, right, in the Western world, right, with the transatlantic slave trade, our very presence, but more specifically, our survival and us thriving and excelling, right? Our excellence in a world dominated by this idea of whiteness. We are our excelling is seen not only as a threat to this standard, right? This the hegemony of whiteness, but it's seen as revolutionary. So we are therefore seen as revolutionary in our very presence, in our very survival, right, in our excellence, which is unfortunately where identity politics has kind of veered us and steered us in the wrong direction. But it is what it is. We are inherently seen as revolutionary and threatening to, right, this idea of whiteness. With all that being said, right, what do public figures such as Bill Clinton, right, Hannah Montana / Miley Cyrus, right, racially ambiguous one drop rule stars, of all these things have in common? Blackness as counterculture, right? To start, Bill Clinton. Now, I was not alive during his first campaign, nor was I alive when he, stepped onto the political or public, if not, cultural scene. What I do know about Bill Clinton is that he is considered by many in the Black community to be our first unofficial Black president, right? That is a perfect example, if you ask me. And apparently you're asking me since you're watching, right? Of Blackness being inherently countercultural, right? And the attribution of Blackness being given to non-Black folks who kind of start to subvert the lines of what is considered normal. He was charismatic. He was from the South. Really specifically, in my understanding, he played the saxophone, right? All these things were not what we expected of a president, an American president, and to be a bit heavy-handed, right? American presidents, that is the epitome of whiteness, right? But yeah, Bill Clinton, if only in style and image, if not specifically the image that we curated of him, right, and projected onto him, was not what was expected of a president. This suaveness, this charisma, the saxophone were so subversive that he's our first Black president. Duh. It was so easy, right? As soon as he did a little more than we were expecting of a white guy running for president, right? As soon as there was a little bit of spice, even if it was ginger, a little bit of black pepper, oh, he's Black. He's our first Black president, right? Miley Cyrus, Hannah Montana, right? You have Disney, you have wholesomeness, you have, oh my goodness, innocent, sterile, if not sterile, right? Like a Southern belle. As soon as she not only wanted to grow up, but abandon and escape this idea of purity and innocence, right, projected onto her, and that she embodied, right, by Disney. Girl, her hair get cut, J's on my feet, I'm wearing fucking jerseys and shit, right? She had to adopt Blackness to not only become rebellious, right, to become grown. And this adoption of Blackness not only represented rebellion, right, and raunchiness, but liberation and freedom for her. And that specifically is something that I think is so delicious. The idea that it's more than the raunch, right, and the sexiness. It was liberatory, right, and freeing for her to adopt aspects of Black culture. What does that mean? It's with the Kardashians, right, who are Armenian and white. So they're white, but they're, I like to call them spicy white, ethnic, right? They have a strong ethnic identity that hasn't been completely abandoned for the adoption of whiteness, right? Multiracial folks who are in the one drop rule category, right? Who want to distance themselves from whiteness, just enough to hold on to the idea of exoticism. So they adopt Blackness, they surround themselves with Black people, they perform Blackness, because this is counterculture. It's edgy. Inverse is also true. And so I think T Noir did an amazing video on Kim Kardashian specifically about the baptism into whiteness, right? But when that no longer becomes respectable, right? Once you want to be taken seriously, right? Once you've had your fun and you want to be respectable now, it's right back to whiteness, right? Kim got her, hair bleached, so she's a blonde now. The booty shots got to come out. All these things have to be done to repel and reject Blackness in order to reassimilate into whiteness, because now you don't want to be counterculture, right? You want to be not only accepted but submerged back into the status quo, because that's the point of whiteness, right? Hegemony. We see this also with other, non-Black folks who have one drop of Blackness. It's kind of like, what's his name? Logic? I think he wants to be taken kind of seriously as a rapper. And we know that's not a Black man. But he wants to be taken seriously as a rapper. So he has to overemphasize, right, his connection to anti-blackness, that one drop rule, because it is countercultural. This is the role for non-black folks who don't, want to wear boat shoes. I don't know. Absorption, if not to blackness, to a semblance or proximity to blackness. All that said, what does that mean for us, for black folks, right? Who cannot take off their blackness, no one questions what they are. It means, once again, for us, that we have the power, right? That we hold the key for access, for permission into our world, into our culture, into our customs, that we set the standard, not only for culture and what is considered revolutionary, rebellious, edgy, avant-garde, right? But we define culture. Even if it's culture that only pops up to be watered down. Now, ebonics is internet slang, BK. It means we need to be more careful, more discerning, and more black, like unapologetically black, if you ask me, right? Not everybody deserves an invite to the cookout. Let's stop doing that, right? The one drop rule, it has to go. It has to go, right? We need to not only be more discerning of who we allow into our space, but we need to be more willing and we need to immerse ourselves into our own space. What it means for us to be black. What was ours and still is ours before our colonization, and what has been born and what customs and cultures have been born as a result of our resilience and our survival and our excellence after our colonization, after our subjugation. That, for me, is what this all teaches us. We need to gatekeep. We need to remember that we are the definers of culture. We need to know that it's not hot unless it got something to do with us. Hello. Yeah, we need to remember, and as we remember this power, wield this incredible, transcendent power with responsibility. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I would love to hear your comments, thoughts, book recommendations, your experience navigating this, in real time, below in the comments. And yeah, I'll see y'all soon. Be well.